Quant is probably one of my top 10 projects forever. I mean, this project is absolutely phenomenal because it's not just focusing on crypto, it's focusing on the entire world. And for anyone that knows a little bit about Quant, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But today's video, I'm going to actually help you guys understand Quant a little bit more and also give you a bit of a price prediction for 2025. And honestly, I'd say beyond this token is easily going to go over $10, $20, and $30,000 for sure because, well, basically supply and demand. Let me explain more. So what is Quant? Well, Quant itself actually operates an Overledger operating system. So Quant is an Overledger system where it actually interacts with multiple different networks all at the one time, sitting above the internet protocol. So the internet itself is called TCP/IP, and the Overledger sits on top of this and actually just connects with multiple different networks at once. Networks, legacy networks, enterprise grade networks, quarter quorum, Hyperledger Fabric, crypto networks, private networks, centralized networks, any network, including services like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, anything that relies on API services, IoT networks, like it literally sits on top of these and just lets them process information as normal, lets the blockchains run as normal, but just extracts data from them. So this is the Overledger operating system here, okay? It is not a blockchain like some people might say and think, although it does technically have blockchain-esque things that operate within it. But I might confuse some of you by saying that. Nevertheless, guys, so what it essentially does is extracts information through this Overledger system, and there's a few layers of the Overledger system where information is bundled and it's kind of compiled into a readable format for the very top layer of Overledger and houses what are called maps, so multi-chain applications, which are pretty much analogous to what you would find on top of a layer 1 network, okay? So layer 1 networks typically have dApps that can build on top, while maps are the equivalent of dApps, but they're multi-chain applications, okay? They're multi-chain because they have the ability to pick and choose which networks are connected to Quant and which ones they want to interact with, which is pretty damn cool if you ask me, okay? So these maps are pretty much going to have use cases beyond what we currently know in crypto, right? Crypto is kind of like the scope of decentralized applications and smart contracts is like this much. We're seeing more and more applications being built nowadays with more flexibility, integrations between, Solidity and Rust, things like that, or pellets. And it is creating new awesome applications. However, Quant's just like that next step up because it allows, centralized private networks to interact with these maps. So, it could literally be anything. It could be, for example, a map could allow the transactions between my bank and Bitcoin. So I can purchase Bitcoin through my bank account app on my phone and not some, centralized exchange Bitcoin that they minted. It's legit Bitcoin from the actual network, okay? It's like the difference between buying a gold certificate and actually buying gold directly from the mint and physically seeing it next to you, okay? So it's a big difference there. So there's that. It's amazing. The use cases are insane and next level. And one thing I want to also mention about the maps themselves is that they actually are going to have what's called Quant IP associated to them individually. Now, Quant IP is just an IP address that is affiliated to each and every map, which means that they can actually interact with the internet itself. So as you know, internet addresses, you have your different IP addresses, you have an IP address for your home, you have an IP address for everything pretty much. So these will obviously have their own IP addresses, which means you can route information directly to them, which I kind of believe will come out when IPv6 sort of is developed, which is like the next internet protocol, okay? So with that all said and done, I think you guys should have a rough idea of like what Quant is sort of like focusing on. Now, there is a few other things involved here, like the nodes on Quant, they're called gateway nodes, and they're specific to Quant because they allow interactions between different networks, and depending on what type of or tier of Overledger node you actually spin up, depends on how many different blockchains you can interact with, and depending on that, depends on how much money you can earn as a node, okay? But again, I've actually created a video on Quant Network that does go over all this sort of thing in the tiers, so I suggest you watch that for more information. Now, also, one other thing about Quant Network is actually it's a smart contract on Ethereum, okay? So it's a smart contract on Ethereum, but many people think it's kind of bound to Ethereum's scalability issues. That's not true. So although it is a smart contract on Ethereum, it pretty much just leverages Ethereum as its like settlement layer. So it's finality layer. Meanwhile, the Quant network itself allows for transactions to be processed all over here off chain, and it allows for, when nodes boot up, the cost to become a node, the quant you have to stake, it's all like bundled on the network over here, and then it's pushed off to the contract on Ethereum to be finalized. Okay, so there's no need for Ethereum to be faster. It's fine how it is. Okay, as long as it's secure, that's all Quant is pretty much using it for. All right, so one thing I want to also touch on is we've kind of touched on the use cases. I mean, the use cases here are just insane, all right? As you can imagine, these maps are going to be able to create anything, imaginable pretty much. And it might take quite a few years to actually come out with, maps that are actually unique enough to be like, wow, this is only capable for Quant, because pretty much, we're only limited by our imagination, okay, and the amount of networks building on Quant. But one thing I wanted to say is we don't really know how many networks are on Quant, because Quant is what's called a white label service, meaning that the networks don't actually have to announce they're partnered with Quant, which is interesting because all they need to do is just, license the Quant technology, license the Overledger, and interact with Quant, but no one knows about it. Obviously, Quant can't come out and say it because they're under a licensing agreement. And it's interesting because, there are some fantastic partners. We see partners like Oracle, LackChain, Nexi, UST, so on and so forth, which have, hundreds of thousands of businesses using them and millions of users, which is great. But we don't know the scale of this, right? We don't know how many partners there really are. We don't know if Facebook is using them. We don't know if Amazon Web Service or Google Azure is using Quant. I suspect in future it will, because it's just where Quant's heading, right? It's going to be like the spider that connects the web, right? So it's the possibilities and the use cases here are just insane. The demand is going to be next level, but we just don't know kind of where we're sitting right now, right? We know that the protocol is fairly new. There's still kinks to kind of weed out. But as for demand right now, we don't really know. But one interesting thing about the licensing agreements is that they kind of all expire at the same time, which means to renew their license, these sort of applications or these partners actually have to buy up Quant around the same sort of time. And I think Quant right now allows actually for, a fiat to be used to purchase their licensing agreement, which then Quant will go and purchase the equivalent amount of Quant tokens. So what I'm trying to say is demand might come all at once, and depending on how many partners there really is, we don't know how crazy that's going to be when that sort of expiry date or days come to fruition, right? So there's a lot to look at here. It's kind of a bit of, it's not really smoke and mirrors in the sense that like they're trying to hide anything. It's just more so like, well, this is a genuine business doing genuine business things, which is a licensing agreement. That's a real thing that software businesses use, right? So again, it's kind of like we have to sort of pick up the breadcrumbs left or the cryptic messages left from Quant. And that's why it's awesome to have some really prominent people in the Quant community like Greg Lunt and Tokenizer doing that for us. They spend hours every day looking at trying to find, the things that Quant say, or, Quant's partnered with such and such, who also has a direct partnership with, Facebook, for example. And so you can kind of start piecing the puzzle together, okay? But nevertheless, give those guys a follow if you're interested in Quant, because they're very, very knowledgeable and they keep you up to date every day. Speaking a little bit about like transparency and smoke and mirrors, Quant actually has scrubbed a lot of the information relating to their token from their website. The main reason being is because obviously Quant's a business first. They're just simply leveraging cryptocurrency for a settlement layer. They need to focus on regulation, right? Obviously regulation's coming because we've been proven that, we can't be trusted with, sort of unregulated markets. Everyone's getting burnt. Look at FTX, look at Luna, look at every other Celsius, A lot of these projects just are showing that they can't operate without regulation. And at that, we also fall for it, okay? So Quant understands this, and that's kind of like in respect to the founder, Gilbert Verderin. Gilbert has accolades from the moon and back. This guy's extremely smart. He's worked in government departments. He's worked for multiple enterprises. This guy knows what the hell's going on. He's also associated with an ISO standard, a interoperability standard. So this guy's like right in the thick of it when it comes to what Quant is trying to do. And again, he's a businessman first. So he knows what he has to do. So he's scrubbed all the information relating to the ICO of the project. So obviously ICOs are a big part of contention right now in crypto, because ICOs are pretty much going to be at the forefront of scrutiny when the SEC comes in, or in some sort of regulation aspect is implemented in crypto. So they've scrubbed it, rightfully so. So you won't be able to find any information regarding the token from Quant. There are some old articles out there, but again, most of it is just pretty much you're going to be finding from third parties, okay? So in saying that, what's my overall opinion on Quant? Well, overall, 10 out of 10, guys. Like they're a business utilizing crypto, focusing on the entire market. The demand here is insane, okay? Think about it like we've never really had an application layer that's able to connect multiple legacy networks together. And then, as I said, the application layer being able to utilize both of those to create something really, really awesome, unique, okay? Also, not just legacy networks, we're talking about, a private network to a public network, okay? A private, like JP Morgan leveraging something from like a dApp on Ethereum. Like there is use cases here we can't conceive, right? And until this is kind of implemented and it's been around for multiple years, then we'll begin to see. But right now we're in Quant's infancy stages, so this won't be sort of happening, I guess, for quite a while. However, based off that demand aspect, based off the fact that there's partners we don't know about, partners that will come to fruition very soon. We have an amazing ecosystem that can spawn. It's all pretty much uphill from here. So in respect to demand and to find the future price of the token, I like to kind of guesstimate what the future market cap will be. And to do that, I like to look at previous all-time high market caps. For promising large cap projects, what I do is just throw a nice 2x on top of that just to estimate demand. And that usually gives me a rough idea of where they're going to be going. However, Quant at its all-time high market cap was about $5.25 billion. It is a large cap, but I believe due to the various types of network effects it has going for it, plus also insane embedding. If you guys know like online defensibility types, embedding is an insane one to have, and Quant is like the perfect example of that. Also, it's going to benefit from scale. Obviously, the more big name partners it has, the more big name partners want to work with it, right? And I wouldn't really necessarily say brand because the licensing agreement, right? Promising project or company might be using Quant and no one knows about it, okay? So nevertheless, I'm going to throw a 4x on demand from its previous all-time high, which means the market cap I'm going to estimate around January 2025 is a conservative $21.25 billion. And because we know supply from simple vesting schedules, obviously Quant doesn't actually have one out there right now, but I'm going to safely assume that about the entire circulating supply will be in circulation. Max supply will be in circulation, which is 14.6 million tokens, which, yes, is less than Bitcoin. It's very, very few coins out there, and it's non-inflationary too. So it's a fixed supply, which means that, hey, guess what, guys? When demand is eventually sort of like when true demand has been found with Quant, the fixed supply is just going to mean the price is just going to go from like this to just, I think I'm doing that backwards, from like this just directly parabolic, okay? So what I'm going to estimate based off those two factors, price in 2025 will be around about just under $1,500 per token. Conservatively, that's at a 4x from its previous all-time high market cap. So what I'm trying to say with that is, for those of you out there who are looking at making safe returns, maybe you've been wrecked the last bull market or bull markets, I would say take your initial investment out at that $1,500 mark, no matter when it occurs, and let the rest ride. Let us sell when you can. Of course, non-financial advice. That's just what I'm personally doing, just based off statistics, okay? Subsequent years, as I said, as Quant begins to build itself, network effects, embedding, scale begins to play out, I believe that Quant will just, the price will probably go from, let's just say it caps at $2,000 or $3,000 to 2025. I mean, the subsequent bull market, I believe it'll probably be $30,000 or $40,000, if not more, depending on how well, those unforeseeable variables sort of play out. Now, with that said, guys, I love Quant, 10 out of 10 project, and I suggest anyone who's looking at Quant, take a deeper dive into it. Watch my video, go follow Greg and Tokenizer, and you will not be disappointed. Trust me, one of my top 10 crypto projects, period. With that said, everyone, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.